Waterways Ireland, which has come under fire from local representatives at Clare's Tourism Strategic Policy Committee this week. Waterways Ireland is responsible for the restoration, development and promotion of 1,100 kilometres worth of inland waters nationwide. However, it has been accused of dereliction of its duty in the southeast of the county for allegedly failing to consult with locals on plans for the Shannon Greenway and for failing to maintain Shannon Banks. Clare FM's Daragh Dolan attended the Tourism Strategic Policy Committee yesterday and spoke with the Shannon Banks Sinn Féin councillor James Ryan and firstly Parteen farmer and former Clare IFA chair Tom Lane, who says farmers are severely frustrated over the Greenway proposals.
The preferred or emerging preferred route came out today was we've jumped from kind of 3 or 4 preliminary routes where basically you go from 3 options and you go to your preferred route, and the preferred route is now decided. The local landowners have been they have been seeking to engage Waterways Ireland for the last 6 months, and now that the final route has been ready for presentation as the selected preferred option, we're not happy that we haven't been engaged properly in that part of the process. And for a lot of the landowners who have a route like this traversing their property, it's even just to put you out of your misery and know that it's not going to affect you in the future. It's something that should be brought to your attention earlier.
And you've been trying to contact Waterways Ireland on this for some time.
Yeah, we've sought to get the attention of Waterways Ireland for the last 6 months. There was a presentation that went out to local councillors. The presentation, we don't know the depth of it. Because we are one of the main stakeholders and that we are one of the main people involved in the ownership of the land, we need to be completely involved in any consultation or any decision on which a proposed infrastructure project will affect our property in any shape or form.
And similarly, we've seen these issues before with the Limerick Northern Distributor Road. There was an awful lot of fear of how that would split up farms, split up different parcels of land, and we see it again at the Cliffs of Moher with the ongoing works there. What have you heard from, I suppose, your neighbours, from landowners in the South East Clare area?
From anywhere in the county, the most important thing for any county council to do, or for any Waterways Ireland or any other public entity to engage the affected landowners immediately and continuously throughout the project.
Shannon Banks, Sinn Féin councillor James Ryan. James, you had a presentation from Waterways Ireland today at the Tourism Strategic Policy Committee. You took a lot of issue with your attempts to communicate them. You've been talking about the state of riverbanks in Shannon Banks. You claimed today that you've been trying to contact Waterways Ireland for the last 6 months to no avail.
Yeah, unfortunately I have contacted Waterways Ireland by phone and left messages and never got any replies. And it's unfortunate because, in fact, local authority wise, I'm told that certain areas can't be touched by the local authority, as in Clare County Council, and so Waterways Ireland are the ones to consult if we have certain questions. Yet I can't actually get any answers out of Waterways Ireland because nobody's returning my calls, and as I say, I left messages more than once.
You've said that the banks along the Shannon Banks look extremely unsightly. You've wanted to get a jetty put back in there, but there's been complications doing that as well. Is that because of the prevalence of the hogweed too, or is the unsightliness just really putting off locals and visitors?
Well, you see, right, I'm native of Shannon Banks. I've lived there all my life, right? So the problem there is that at one time people in Shannon Banks used to go boating there and they used to use the banks. Now we can't really touch the banks anymore because we're told this is Waterways Ireland, this is special area of conservation. Yet the areas then are kind of allowed to go completely and utterly wild and become unsightly. There's trees down that we can't touch, and they're just rotting right there, but we can't move them because it's a special area of conservation. Which is of course disappointing. This doesn't cause the hogweed though. The hogweed is a separate issue. It's something that spreads down through the rivers, and also with regards to the jetty, yes, in fact, in fairness to Clare County Council, I did ask them about building a jetty. They also agreed, but the problem is that we also have another thing, which is the Limerick flood defences, which is also taking part to Shannon Banks, which is in County Clare, but they're in charge of the project. which means that we can't touch anything until they know for sure what they're actually going to do in Shannon Banks and in Westbury, in that area too. Hogweed is a very big issue though in a lot of these places too though, and especially Westbury and all the way up along the bank, and that has to be looked after, and some of that is most certainly most certainly part of the Waterways Ireland area.
Particularly, you mentioned that it's such a problem for the Shannon Municipal District that funds that should be going to repairing, resurfacing and re-strengthening your roads are actually going to tackle hogweed. Must be very disappointing as a local councillor who wants funding for other things, and for your constituents to want to see funding for other projects.
Yeah, so it is, because obviously we want roads to be fixed, but when we also want specific money to go directly to the treatment of hogweed, because it is actually a public health hazard at the end of the day. Now, I have been working with Clare County Council right at the moment about getting funding from the National Parks and Wildlife Service, which have dedicated grants to treat hogweed and other invasive species. So I'm hoping that there will actually be more money in the future, which means that more areas will be actually treated in East Clare and up along the rivers of that area.
And just to move it on from the hogweed again, so that's been a separate issue that's been a legacy issue in Shannon Banks for some time. But your issue here with Waterways Ireland is recently the degradation of the riverbanks, and as you mentioned there, overhanging vegetation. You made a comment today that it was actually cleaner when you were growing up almost 20 years ago.
Well, yeah, because you see, over the last 20 years or so, right, what has happened is that we've been told that we can't touch the banks, nobody can go near the banks, so Clare County Council don't clear anything on the banks, which means, as I said, there's trees down now, we can't move the trees, it looks extremely unsightly. The banks have collapsed in places as well. Now, that is unfortunately caused in some places by hogweed itself, because if nothing grows underneath hogweed, that means there's no roots holding onto the banks. And also general flooding, of course, hasn't helped that either. But there are huge areas completely overgrown that we can't touch, that lots of locals would actually like to get involved in and actually fix. Particularly tidy towns, for instance, in Shannon Banks, Westbury and Carrickmere, would love to get involved and do some more work on the bank. But at the moment, we're told we cannot touch it.
And just finally, you were able to meet representatives from Waterways Ireland today. You were able to have a conversation with them after the meeting unfolded. They've promised to improve their communication with you. Did you come off on a good footing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no point in getting all fisticuffs with them. There's no, at the end of the day, they did accept that they hadn't actually returned my messages, and that they would in fact improve communications in future. We live near the river, and it's very important to us. So we want as much involvement and as much improvement as possible, and working with Waterways Ireland is an extremely important part of that.
That was the Shannon Banks Sinn Féin councillor James Ryan speaking with Clare FM's Daragh Dolan, and before that, Tom Lane, the Parteen farmer and former Cllr IFA chair.